is Linda, and today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the first book I ever had published. It seems like forever ago, and it was quite a number of years, at least 20 some. So I want to talk to you about recruiting and training fundraising volunteers. And I have always found in my career that the most successful nonprofits are those who really can involve volunteers in their fundraising efforts. So I'm going to read from you a little bit from this book, which is why I'm wearing my glasses today, so I can read the section on why volunteers are effective at making the ask. Volunteers are in a unique position to ask others for money for several reasons. They aren't getting paid to do it. That's the first reason. They have a real commitment to the mission of the organization, and they have already made a significant contribution themselves. And often they care enough that they are taking time from their real work to participate in a nonprofit organization's fundraising program. And finally, they are often doing a task that they really don't savor, but for which they recognize there's a strong need. Few people actually enjoy asking others for money, although many volunteers out there really are good at it, and most of them will say they don't really enjoy it. So if they were willing to do something they don't really enjoy without any pay or some other reward, most of them keep coming back and make a successful, they're successful at what they do. Kay Sprinkle Grace, who's a fundraiser I admire from the time I was in this profession, said that volunteer involvement is a basic component of the nonprofit sector's capacity to respond to community needs. So I, like her, feel that without volunteer fundraisers, many organizations would need to hire huge development staff, driving up the costs of fundraising and forcing the organization to cut back on the very reason for their existence, program. Grace goes on to say, because volunteers represent the community, they provide insight and perspective that nonprofits must have to shape their programs and outreach appropriately. Now, in my book, I go on to say that one of the reasons why volunteers are good at asking for money is simply that they are volunteers. That does not mean that staff people aren't committed to their organization. Many readers will be able to cite numerous instances of staff people, perhaps themselves, who have been with our organization for many years and are obviously committed to the organization. Let's face it, most people do not work for a nonprofit because of the huge salary that they're pulling down, but rather because they believe in what the organization is doing. The recent trend toward more stability in the profession points out the fact that development officers are staying in their jobs longer because of this commitment. But there is still that special commitment that only comes with volunteering. In fact, most development staff people still volunteer for some other nonprofits in their free time, perhaps their church, their children's school, the local chamber of commerce, AFP, the Association of Fundraising Professionals, or some other professional organization, or maybe some agency whose mission is especially close to their hearts. As volunteers themselves, most development people will understand that special feeling that comes from volunteering that is different from the satisfaction received on their job. And I really think that people should experience both volunteering and the staff fulfillment. Another reason why volunteers can be more effective is that they're generally soliciting their peers and approaching people to give at a level at which they themselves have already given. For this reason, it is recommended that staff and volunteers call on major donors as a team, and I talk more about that in a future chapter. But volunteers can easily tell peers that they have made an investment in the organization themselves because they believe so strongly in the work the organization is doing. They can then invite prospective donors to join them in this investment. And I think this is really what it's all about. And Certainly, staff members can be very good at fundraising, or they wouldn't have their job if they didn't. But volunteers can add a very special component. So, in this book, I talk about all the different ways that you can involve volunteers. And I also have another book that I co-wrote with Joanne Oppelt. We wrote a series of quick guides for nonprofits, and there is one called the Quick Guide to Engaging Volunteers in Your Nonprofit Fundraising. So I hope that you'll pick up these books and really develop a strong volunteer program, because I've had so much success, and I've done in my years a lot of capital campaigns, and I've always said, if I looked at the capital campaigns that were the most successful and listed them from number one down to the bottom, and then I looked at the capital campaigns which had the best volunteer leadership, it would almost match up line for line. The best volunteers create the best successful campaigns. So I hope you'll enjoy these books and take a look at both of them and really start to think about new ways that maybe you can involve volunteers in your nonprofit organization. Thanks so much.